I'm Shane.
And I'm Adam.
And welcome to Hot Take.
Yeah, today we've got some news that is about Best Buy, and they are kind of the leakiest of leaky ships when it comes to Nintendo stuff recently. Just last week, they had an ad that they were running on their website that was showing some Super Smash Ultimate DLC stuff. And within that ad, they showed a particular character that people have been waiting for, and that's Joker from Persona 5, and it was showing off the render of Joker. We're not sure if that is the amiibo, a rendering of the amiibo, or a rendering of like the character proper.
So for me, when I first saw it, I thought it was actually going to be like a picture. I thought it was like a toy or something like that. But I think it's the render of what the character is going to look like in game. I think that's what that is.
I mean, yeah,
like
the amiibos are always so close to what's going on in game anyway, right? So yeah, that was the first sort of leak thing that kind of popped out. Best Buy was super duper quick at removing that ad, and they were like, oh, well, maybe no one noticed, right? Well,
Everyone did. Everyone did. Every Nintendo fan out there is always paying attention to everything Nintendo all the time. So of course, by the moment they took it down, everyone had already seen it. Even my grandmother saw it.
Okay. She's a huge fan of Super Smash.
Huge fan of Joker.
All right. Well, anyway, recently even more leaky leaks came out of Best Buy because I guess employee terminals, people were digging into the employee terminals, and they found listings for some other games. And this links first directly to Persona 5. They found a link to Persona 5 on the Switch.
Yes.
Which has been rumored pretty well since the DLC, the Joker DLC, was shown off at the Game Awards.
I mean, it's not that hard to believe considering that we are seeing that character show up in this game. I mean, it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Seeing this happen on these systems that Best Buy has, it's not that crazy to think about because, remember, one of the ways Best Buy makes money outside of other locations that are selling video games is through pre-orders. So if they have a SKU in the system that has a date of some sort, they can accept pre-orders for games, and that's essentially what went on here, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, that's the stuff that got leaked.
But there's more, Shane.
Okay.
So yeah, we heard that Persona 5. We again, we can't confirm whether or not this is legitimately going to be coming out to the Switch, but it does carry some weight. Things like this have happened in the past, and I'll talk about that a little bit more later.
Yeah.
Other games that were leaked: Metroid Prime Trilogy.
Something we've been talking about quite a bit, and we actually heard a lot of people talking about the game being completed and finished and ready to go, but Nintendo's just sitting on it. So this leads some legitimacy to that.
Yeah, Imran Khan from Game Informer specifically was talking about that.
A very well-informed dude, by the way. If you don't know him, you should follow him.
Yeah, that's true. And he said, no, it's done. They're sitting on it. It will be released. I think we assumed when we didn't see it in a direct or in any other sort of source that they were just kind of sitting on it because of the push of Metroid Prime 4.
Yeah,
right?
See, what we were thinking originally was if they were going to delay Metroid Prime 4, it'd be a great time to go, okay, we delayed it. But here's the trilogy, kids. But they didn't do that, so,
But it could be coming. Could be coming pretty soon. Okay, and then the last thing that was leaked and may or may not be legit is the thing that most people are talking about right now, which is another Zelda game, not necessarily a new Zelda game, and not the Zelda game you're immediately thinking of, right? We heard about and saw the remake of A Link's Awakening, right? The old Game Boy game that's being redone for the Switch that looks, in my opinion, very cool. It has a sort of plasticine look to it. This listing that was up on Best Buy, and again, these listings have since been pulled, just like that Persona DLC stuff. This listing was for Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. A Link to the Past is a very different game than the Game Boy game.
Yeah, but
right?
But they're still similar gameplay styles, right? So, okay, here's the idea that I have going into this. If this is actually happening and we're going to be seeing two 2D Zelda games. Now, this is not a bad idea. Way back, a long time ago, when we were first talking about the Switch and Zelda coming out, Zelda became a big thing. Everyone that bought a Switch bought Zelda. It was like the thing you bought when you got the system. Otherwise, you had a really nice portable screen that didn't do anything.
Well, yeah, you're right. The numbers, the attach rate for Breath of the Wild was like outrageous.
Yeah. There's very few games out there that have that kind of attach rate. It's quite the thing. For those of you that don't know, attach rate is how many people own a system, how many people actually bought the game. And it was like 80 or 90% or something.
I don't know, man. I think at one point it may have surpassed the actual amount of Switches that were out there. Because people were buying like multiple copies and stuff. But,
it was ridiculous.
Yeah, it was insane.
So if you have that many Zelda fans on the Switch, what would you do? Well, you'd start taking older Zelda games and bringing them forward because the user base there is hungry for that kind of stuff. And the idea that taking A Link to the Past and turning that into a re-released game, or possibly, I think you're saying King Zell spoke like a 2D or 3D
Okay.
thing.
Oh yeah. That's one thing that I wanted to touch on. King Zell was the person who posts on Resetera. He initially was talking about the direct that we saw. He had said that a lot of this stuff was coming to the direct, predicted a lot of things that basically came true. He said two things. There's going to be a 2D Zelda coming out sometime this year, and there's also going to be a 3D Zelda. We saw what we assume is the 2D Zelda that he was posting about, which was Link's Awakening. Could this game, this beloved SNES gem, this remake, be a 3D title?
I mean, that's...
like Ocarina 3D style? Or...
I don't think that.
Yeah.
But I think what we're seeing with the other game, we could see that happening. So Link's Awakening has a new 3D engine being used and it's the same old game from what we're to understand. They're just recreating it with 3D assets.
Well, yeah, we're not 100%.
Sure. But once you have those assets, once you have that design, it's not exactly impossible to take other 2D Zelda games that are in the same style, and Link to the Past is, and kind of implement it in that way.
With King Zell's rumor, though, having the 2D heading and the 3D heading, you know, if he is pointing towards this game, like, well, if it's the same as Link's Awakening, then that would be 2D as well. But this could be he could be talking about another game. We don't know.
Sure.
We don't know. There could be another, like, Breath of the Wild style Zelda game being produced, which I believe is happening.
Sure.
Yeah, so we just kind of have to wait and see. So leaks like this, they happen.
Yes.
And like I said before, it's a grain of salt sort of scenario where, like, sometimes things don't come to fruition. But we did see last year, before E3, Walmart of our country, of Canada, Walmart, they listed a few things. Some games had been announced, and some games were unannounced. Rage 2, they had listed. Just Cause 4, they had listed. These hadn't been announced yet. And Gears of War 5.
Yeah,
and these all came to fruition, and it was in the same style, like their pin numbers were put up online and information and stuff.
If loose lips sink ships, then Walmart Canada has sunk a fleet. I mean, it's insane. Every game that I know about that has been leaked a little bit early, it's always been Walmart Canada. And what's funny about Walmart Canada is now they're kind of like the joke in the industry, because Bethesda now makes fun of them on stage. Like, everybody does this now because they know that, like, okay, if we have a game, tell everyone but Walmart. So I find it funny that we're hearing this coming from Best Buy now, but I mean, it's not so crazy. It's any retailer that is preparing for any kind of launch that may be having a much more closer relationship with a game developer, a publisher, or producer. They are likely to know a little bit more information than any of us, so that can happen. Those kind of things can happen. And the people that are, like, putting that data into those systems, they have NDAs, and they have, like, contracts that prevent them from talking about things, because it's insider knowledge. You're not supposed to do that. So
So more sort of thoughts have been popping up because of all these rumors that have leaked. A lot of people are assuming that because these things have been listed recently on Best Buy's, in their employee systems, that this is pointing to a possible direct coming this month. I think, in my opinion, that this is perhaps grasping for straws a bit,
because every month we're gonna get a direct every month.
Historically, if you go back, Nintendo has had several directs in April.
Sure.
Problem is, recently Nintendo has, the directs have been a little fewer and further between. And it really does feel like, I know it's been a little bit of time, but it does feel like we just got a pretty substantial direct.
Yeah.
So I'm not too sure. There is evidence. Historically, they've done stuff in April, usually mid to late April.
Yeah.
So if we are going to see a direct, maybe in the April 20s.
So for me personally, I think that seeing a direct around this time period doesn't make a lot of sense, only because we're getting really close to E3. Okay, the closer we get to E3, the more companies kind of hold more information closer to their chest, because there's not really a good reason to announce that kind of stuff, because you want to keep it for E3. Now, I know there's a lot of you there watching right now. They're like, why would you even care about E3 anymore? Nobody cares about E3.
Nintendo cares more about E3 this year because they announced that they're going to have more of a presence this year than they have in the past. So that might be siding with what you've spoken about. Where Nintendo in the last few years, in April, they're like, well, we're not going to have a huge E3 presence. We're going to have a direct in April or whatever, but now...
Or they had a lot of competition, and because we know Sony isn't going to E3 and neither is EA, suddenly all Nintendo has to compete up against is Well, Microsoft and Bethesda, really, that's kind of it. And some other folks, I imagine, that are trying to release their own kind of small independent video game systems.
So, what do you think of these leaks? Which of these do you think would be like closer to officially being a thing? So here's the thing: Persona 5, Persona 5R was announced. The Persona 5 The Royals,
yes,
for PS4. We know that that's coming out. Atlas had also created a website for another Persona 5 game, and the website was entitled something like Persona 5S. So a lot of people are assuming that's for the Switch. There's going to be a Persona event in April 25th, around that time. So like this all sort of coincides with so many things. Joker, the DLC character, is supposed to come out in late April. So like, could all of these be pointing towards the Switch release being like the end of April?
The most reasonable thing to expect is the Metroid Prime trilogy bundle. That is the most reasonable. That thing makes the most sense. Next would be Persona, only because we saw Joker as like an extra character for Smash. That's the only reason that I even warrant that.
I think there's those little dates
sure.
as well.
And at the bottom, it's just my own personal opinion, at the bottom is definitely Zelda. I don't think, because why would they announce a new Zelda when they haven't even released the Zelda they just announced? You know what I mean? Like, that is wild.
To me, it seems like it doesn't seem like the greatest idea. I don't know. I don't know what this listing means. I don't know that this listing means that these games are going to be coming out at the exact same time. I don't know if this listing means that, okay, this is something that's going to happen a year from now.
Yeah.
Like, hopefully, because Link's Awakening, I believe it needs its time in the sun, right? And then, inevitably, you can have another sort of thing coming up.
Look, as far as I can really think about this in this direct way, we're going to see a lot of this stuff happen more often as long as retailers exist. But as many of you may have realized, that retailers aren't doing so great. GameStop is having problems. We're hearing that their stock is falling. We're hearing a lot of that stuff happen. And in the future, in the very near future, if the next line of systems comes out...
If Stadia's a thing.
Suddenly there are no video game releases in stores, so these kind of retail leaks may not happen as much as you may think they do now. So I think that... If it wasn't for Zelda, I would totally believe this. It's just the Zelda thing is really working against me because it's the weirdest thing.
It is weird.
Maybe they accidentally typed in the wrong name under the SKU. You know what I mean?
That's the thing. People pointed to, well, maybe they meant Link's Awakening.
Yeah.
But Link's Awakening is already listed on their website. You can pre-order the game.
Sure.
It's there. This is a separate Legend of Zelda game.
Absolutely. My mom still calls Link Zelda. She doesn't know the difference between the characters, and if somebody's just working at Best Buy and they're just typing in, they're working a long day, they didn't realize.
It's like, what is it, like 100,000 monkeys at 100,000 typewriters. They just accidentally type in a Link to the Past. I don't believe it.
Look, I don't believe it. I went to a fairly large video game retailer quite a number of years ago, and I was pre-ordering Metal Gear Solid 3 Subsistence. I was really excited about this, and when I went to go order the game, and at this point in time, Metal Gear was primarily, a Sony game. Like, you didn't see that get released anywhere else. Actually, I think Twin Snakes may have happened around that time period, but whatever. I went to go pre-order one of the Metal Gear games. I'm pretty sure it might have been 2 now that I think about it. I pre-ordered 2, and then the person went, "What console is Metal Gear on?" And at the time, that was like asking me, what console's Mario on? Like, it was a weird thing. It's not that people are stupid that work at these companies. It's that they're dealing with a ton of other games, a ton of other titles, so they could have typed in the wrong name.
That's true.
For all we know, Metroid Prime Trilogy was actually supposed to be a different Metroid game of some sort, and they typed in the wrong name. Like, we don't know.
Are you telling me they're bringing a collection of the advanced games to the Switch, Shane? Is this a hot take? Okay, I think we should do End card.
End card.
End card. End card.
So, folks, what do you think?
Yeah.
Do you believe that we're going to be getting a whole bunch of cool games straight from Nintendo, or coming to Best Buy?
Yeah. How valid do you think all this information is? I want to play Metroid Prime Trilogy now.
Yeah.
So
me too.
That would make me very happy.